Hi everyone. So I put out a call to you, our audience, to submit questions that I could hopefully answer in a question and answer format video. So in this video, I'm just going to be kind of going about my day, doing what I would regularly do while answering some questions that were submitted by you, our audience. So thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. So the first question that I want to get to is, how has your schizophrenia changed over the years since your diagnosis, if at all? I think that's a really good question, and actually it has changed quite a bit, and I think largely to do with having this YouTube channel. I think that, exploring my diagnosis and exploring it all really, really in depth and sharing it openly has really allowed me to come to a lot more self-acceptance around my illness, which has really changed the way it impacts my life. And I think that's probably the biggest change in my diagnosis since getting it years ago. The next question is, how old were you when you were diagnosed? Do you think your kids notice it? So that's kind of an interesting question. So two-parter. So I was diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder when I was 25. And do I think that my kids notice it? I'm getting my stuff out from coaching my daughter's soccer game right now, or soccer team. And that was something that I was really concerned about, was if her teammates and, the kids that I was coaching soccer would notice that something was different about me. And I think for the most part, I mask pretty well, and people generally don't know that I'm struggling with an illness like schizoaffective disorder, and I don't think that my kids really notice too many differences. They do obviously know that I live with schizoaffective disorder, and they know, sometimes I need a little bit of extra rest or that sort of thing, but for the most part, I don't really let on when I'm struggling with symptoms, or I don't visibly struggle with them, and so they don't really notice it very much. I'm kind of just mom. So I got a new bike trainer that we're going to be setting up in our basement, but before we can do that, I need to clear stuff from the garage so that the junk from the basement where the bike trainer is going to go can go into the garage. So Rob has tasked me with going through boxes of my things that I have not gone through since I moved in here about 5 years ago. So that's what I'm doing right now. So while I'm doing that, I will answer some of your questions. So the next one is, was it challenging for you to find a psychiatrist who would treat you while you were pregnant? No, because I just stuck with my same psychiatrist who was treating me before pregnancy as well. I had let my psychiatrist know before I had gotten pregnant that we were thinking about becoming pregnant. And so he was kind of aware of it the whole way through, that it was something that we were wanting, that it was something that we would need to kind of plan around with him in terms of adjusting my medication in a way that felt safe for carrying a baby. And so, I was really lucky that he was really willing to support me through the entire pregnancy experience. The next question is, can you talk about finding a sustainable source of income as someone who struggles with the demands of a 9-to-5? Your own experience as well as advice would be appreciated. So my own experience would be, I guess, to start a YouTube channel. That's something that, I really struggled with, was trying to fit in with a very neurotypical based 9-to-5 work structure. And it's just something that I couldn't really excel or flourish within. And so I'm really, really lucky that what I currently do for work, which is basically this YouTube channel and our peer support community and advocacy work and whatnot, is really, really flexible and really allows for me to have, wavering periods of capacity. And that's been really, really crucial, I think, to having long-term stable employment. Now, that said, that can be really hard as well, because, you have to be a little bit self-sufficient with one of these more self-directed jobs. And so that can be a struggle as well. And so I'm really lucky that I do it with my partner, Rob, and he really helps to, kind of keep things on track in that regard. And it's just ended up being a really good setup in terms of accommodating the needs that I have within the workplace. So I'm going through things, and I just found a couple yearbooks, and I'm going to show you guys grade 7 Lauren. So this is grade 7 Lauren. That's me, I guess, pre-schizoaffective disorder. And then that is me, my grade 12 year. So also pre-schizoaffective disorder, but I was kind of starting to struggle in my high school years. And so that was kind of probably when I entered the prodrome phase of having schizoaffective disorder. So on to the next question. So what are your thoughts on incorporating non-Eurocentric worldviews, for example, Indigenous or Eastern, into our understanding of mental health, specifically psychosis and altered states? Yeah, I really, really like that question. And I think that it's something that I want to do more learning around is what are other cultures' understandings or conceptions of mental illnesses like schizophrenia. That's actually something that Rob and I had as kind of a dream project, is looking at how schizophrenia presents itself in Indigenous cultures and communities and trying to explore that with either, psychiatrists or people who know about, mental illness as it shows up in the Indigenous communities. And I think that it's really valuable to kind of understand the different understandings out there of the experience of mental illness or of schizophrenia, and how it can be a very, very different experience from what our current understanding is as a very Western medicalized conception of schizophrenia and of mental illness. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot of room to, learn from other cultures as to what their understanding of schizophrenia and mental illness is. Hi. Hi, Teddy. Where are we going? Where are we going? Where are we going? We're going to get a haircut. A haircut. So I might as well answer another question. So the next one is, can you talk about disorganized behavior? What are some of the behaviors you've exhibited? What's going through your mind when you do them? Do you catch yourself, or is it something mostly others notice? So this got me thinking, do others notice disorganized behavior? So I actually asked Rob if he notices any disorganized behavior from me, and what was your response?
I said that you're weird sometimes. But I think in kind of like a manic way, like you just kind of get into quirky moods. But that's not really disorganized, I don't think.
What, that I'm weird? I guess I would kind of agree with that. I get into weird moods and stuff where maybe it is.
Oh, you say it. It's okay for you to say it.
It's okay for me to say it. It's not okay for you to say it. Where it might be as a result of some disorganized thinking. I think generally speaking, I don't show that to other people very much. And so I don't think that other people really notice very much. But disorganized thinking is something that I do experience more. But I don't think that it necessarily typically results in disorganized behavior outwardly. Okay, the next one is... 1 second, I'm going to turn the music on and right away, okay? Okay. So the next one is, hi Lauren, I have bipolar with psychotic features that appear in both highs and lows, and I was wondering about the types of therapy or advice you've received for managing the mood disorder side of schizoaffective disorder. The way my psychiatrist treats it primarily is through medication, be it mood stabilizers or antidepressants. But really what I find the most helpful for me in terms of managing my mood is really kind of the cornerstones of self-care being around getting proper sleep or regular sleep, nutrition, exercise. Those types of ways of taking care of myself are really what I find to be the best way to manage fluctuations in my mood as a result of the mood component of my schizoaffective disorder. This question is, hi Lauren, I'm curious if you made any dietary adjustments or changes after your interview with Dr. Chris Palmer, and if so, what effects they may have had. I found it such a hope-inspiring and informative talk and was so grateful to see it here. So I'm really glad someone asked about that, because it's actually a new project that we're going to be starting really, really soon, where we're going to be documenting on our channel my experience of trying out the ketogenic diet and metabolic therapeutic interventions to manage my mental illness, to manage my schizoaffective disorder. And we're going to be kind of taking you guys along on that journey of, seeing if it's an effective means of treating or managing my illness. And so definitely keep an eye out on our channel for more information of that project that's coming shortly. Pizza! Hey Teddy, pizza? Okay.
It's ready.
No. What's it?
Yeah.
Ah.
Is it good? Setting up the bike trainer. Rob is. Thanks, Rob. I'll help. So I might as well take this time to answer another question. The next question is there something that keeps you more grounded to have less episodes, like a hobby, singing songs, reading a book? Well, funny you should ask, because this is actually part of that. I think that exercise is a really grounding activity for me, and particularly I do a lot of running, and that's a really grounding activity for me to do. And I think ultimately it does help me to have less episodes because it's grounding, it's just good for my mental health, and it's good for my body too. So that's something that I do a lot of. I also like to read a lot. That helps. Yeah, those are the main ones. Good work, Rob.
It's the royal we.
So the next question is kind of along similar lines, and it's, does exercise positively impact your mental health in any noticeable way compared to when you don't? In one video you shared you were about to run a marathon. So yes, again, running is a really, really big part of maintaining my mental wellness. And yeah, I actually just ran a marathon at the end of the summer and an ultra marathon in the fall. And it's a really big part of what I do to stay mentally well. And again, we're setting up a bike trainer right now to add biking as well into that mix too. Yay! Yay! Okay, now that we are done setting up my bike trainer, thank you, Rob, I will answer one more question for tonight. Do you have trouble sleeping? Do you take anything either regularly or PRN for sleep? Many people with schizophrenia have trouble sleeping. Thanks. I do occasionally have some difficulty sleeping, and it is something that I really am mindful of doing the best I can at, excelling at sleeping. And so I do take melatonin every night before bed. And sometimes if I'm feeling particularly agitated or restless, I will take a PRN of Ativan, which is just an anti-anxiety medication, which I sometimes use for sleep. But very rarely, usually it's just the melatonin and trying to have really good sleep hygiene before going to bed. We actually have a whole video on what I mean by sleep hygiene, which you can check out here. Look, I have grease under my chin. I must have worked hard too. Oh, come on. I helped pass parts and stuff. Look, I worked hard. It's the next day and I'm gonna ride my bike. Put my shoes on. That was fun. I wanted to do it while I was actually spinning, but I got a little too intense, so I'm just kind of cooling down now, and I'll answer a couple more questions. So the next one is, do you interact with your kids on days when you're struggling with psychotic symptoms? If so, how do you manage that? I do still, of course, interact with my kids on days where I'm having more symptoms, just because I kind of always need to be there for my kids. That's kind of the nature of being a parent. I think that if I'm really struggling, like if I'm in psychosis, I am taking measures to, protect the kids, whatever that looks like, from being too exposed to troubling symptoms or whatnot. But generally speaking, I can balance still looking after the kids and filling that role while I'm still struggling with symptoms. So yeah, I do still engage with my kids while I'm still experiencing symptoms. Again, if I'm really, really struggling with psychosis, I'll probably take myself to the hospital or remove myself in some way like that, and Rob will kind of step in as a more primary caregiver during the interim. But generally speaking, I can balance both. And the next one is, when you hear voices, do you hear them in your head, or is it an actual voice, maybe even of someone you know? So when I hear auditory hallucinations, typically in the form of voices, it's not usually someone that I know. It's a voice that is new to me, but that also becomes a little bit familiar because I hear it a lot. And actually, the first voice that I heard regularly, I named Jennifer. And it can either sound like it's coming from inside my head or from over my shoulder or an external source, but it always is very distinguishable as an external voice and not my own internal voice. Okay, and we'll do one more on the bike. So, hi Lauren, how do you avoid weight gain with antipsychotics? So, I do try to be as active as possible, getting on the trainer, going for runs, just trying to live really actively. And I think that that's a big part of keeping the weight off for me. I think it is probably also important to be honest about the fact that I probably just have a higher natural metabolism. I've kind of always been on the lighter side, and it's never been that much of a struggle to keep weight off. I know that, taking antipsychotics, that can be a really big problem for a lot of people. And it has been a problem for me on specific antipsychotics in the past too, where it didn't matter what I did. I just gained kind of an excessive amount of weight. And so I actually have a whole video on this topic and, how to manage weight while on antipsychotic medication, which you can see more of if you check out this video here. But yeah, trying to stay active, trying to eat well, just kind of trying to tick off those basic aspects of wellness. Next question is, do you still feel emotions of intense joy despite being on antipsychotics? I don't want to lose that part of myself. Since being on antipsychotics, I've been on antipsychotics for quite a few years now. And I will be honest that I don't think that my range of emotion is as extensive as it was before I was on them. That said, I think that I am kind of a sensitive person and experience really big emotions. And that was kind of to my detriment for many years, where I had these really, really intense emotions that would kind of rock me for long periods at a time, especially periods of experiencing despair and depression. And so in some respects, it is kind of a good thing that I can't experience that intensity of range of emotion anymore. But it is something that I really felt was part of what made me me. And so it is something that I do kind of grieve, I guess, a little bit sometimes, being on antipsychotic medication that does blunt the emotional experience a little bit. And so being fully honest, yes, it does impact that. But that said, I am still capable of experiencing quite a wide range of emotions. And I don't think that I'm really losing out on aspects of life by having that kind of cap on either end of my experience of emotions. I do think that I still experience a great depth of emotion, and it's still possible to derive extensive meaning and whatnot while taking antipsychotic medication, which may have an impact on the extent of what you can experience for emotions. The next one is, have you ever taken injections? If so, do you find them more beneficial than traditional oral ones? So one of the first videos that we did on this channel actually went along with me. It was kind of a vlog style video of getting an antipsychotic injection. And I was on antipsychotic injections, or the depot version of the medication, for several years. And it was really good for me, especially during that period, because I was really, really struggling with adherence to taking my oral medication every day. That was something that I was struggling a great deal with. And so having just an injection every 3 or 4 weeks was a really easy option for me. The only reason why I'm not still on it is because the medications that are offered through injection are not ones that work the best for me. And so the medication that works the best for me, unfortunately, is only offered currently orally. And so that's what I'm on right now. But I do hope that eventually the medication that works for me will be offered through a depot or through an injection, because I did really appreciate the benefits that that provided. Hi, Rob. I just wanted to come over here for the next one because it is, when did you know your partner, Rob, was someone that you wanted to marry? Aw. I always knew. I think the moment I knew I wanted to marry him was in the lake that we actually ended up getting married in Jasper, in the mountains, in the Rocky Mountains. It's a shallow lake that you can walk out into. And we were just, I don't know, having such a good time. And I realized I was so in love with you, every aspect of you. And I knew that in that moment, I wanted to eventually marry you.
I knew too.
You knew too.
I knew too.
Rob just suggested that on that note, we show you all our gross matching couples tattoos. You want to see? Aw, it's a wave for the lake that we got married in and that I knew I wanted to marry you in. Gross. I wanted to throw this next one in here because I think it's funny. It's how many years of gymnastics did you do? The toes give it away. It's because I posted this photo when I called out for questions to answer in this video as just a fun photo, but I guess it gave away that I did do competitive gymnastics for several years of my life growing up as a preteen and in my teenage years. I did competitive gymnastics, and that's kind of always stuck with me. Okay, so going back to the question about when I knew I wanted to marry Rob, I realized that we are so codependent that I stole Rob's memory. That's Rob's memory of when he wanted to marry me, or when he knew he wanted to marry me, and I stole it. That's not when I knew I wanted to marry him. I knew, like, quite a while before that. It was on our, was it second or third date?
I think it was our second date.
Second date, where he took me on a little photo date. And that's how early, that's when I knew that I wanted to marry him. I shared with you when Rob knew he wanted to marry me as my own memory, so sorry about that. Sorry, Rob. Anyway, we're out running errands, so why don't we answer some more questions? The next question is, do you have a limit on how much money you can make because of your disability insurance coverage? Because I have some friends who are on disability insurance in the US and they cannot have over 2,000 USD in your bank account. Yeah, so I'm actually not on disability anymore because I make too much through this YouTube channel and whatnot. So I actually got removed from disability and I don't get any benefits or anything through them anymore, or any healthcare cover. Well, healthcare coverage through the government because I live in Canada. We have universal healthcare, but no extra health benefits or anything. So that kind of sucked. And it really is a very, very low amount that you're able to make before they kick you off of disability support. And yeah, you were saying that your friend can't have over $2,000 in their bank account, which really, that's not a lot to have in your bank account as kind of, backup funds or whatever. That's really kind of living month to month. And so, I don't know, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me how little you're allowed to earn or have to be on disability. It just seems like it's kind of a system that's set up to kind of keep you down and to not really create any space for you to succeed financially yourself, or to, have a better quality of life even. The next question is, do you still suffer from disordered eating? So that's a good question, and it's probably something that I don't talk about enough on our channel, and how I have used disordered eating to cope with my schizoaffective disorder symptoms. I think anyone who's struggled with disordered eating or an eating disorder of any kind of understands that it's a bit of a lifelong struggle or journey or process of kind of overcoming those pulls. And there's always I'm not currently struggling with outright disordered eating or anything like that, but it is kind of always a voice or a pull in the back of my mind that is aware of, being mindful of that sort of thing. And so it is something that I think I will deal with for the rest of my life, just as something that I'm aware of and need to be aware of not slipping back into. But it's not really a problem right now for me. We just got some wicked awesome deals on Lego advent calendars for our kids, so naturally we needed to treat ourselves to some bubble tea. But I just want to wrap up this video with another couple questions. So the next one is, do you regret any videos you have ever made? Why or why not? So, fun fact, we posted a video with a little skit of me going to the washroom. And in that video, I pretended to go to the washroom. And then we had the brilliant idea of adding pee sounds from the internet over top of that footage. So it looks like I actually am peeing and looks and sounds like I'm actually peeing, but I wasn't. I hold on to that little shred of dignity that I didn't actually, but we made it look like we did. So, I don't know if we really won there. So there's stuff like that we posted that, I could have some embarrassment around, but ultimately I think that it was beneficial to hear about that experience and to share that. And there are more serious things that I've shared about on the channel, you know, around my experience with suicide, or some of the more intimate details that I've shared about my experience living with and managing schizoaffective disorder. I think that there is potential to, you know, feel shame or embarrassment for sharing those things. But ultimately, I don't think that I regret sharing anything that I've shared on the channel, because there's always been at least one comment of someone saying, this resonates really deeply with me, or thank you for talking about this. I have never heard anyone else speak about this. And so, no, I don't regret anything that we've posted. There has been some really personal and intimate things that I've shared and talked openly about on our channel, but I don't regret it at all. And the final question is, why did you decide to create your YouTube channel? So that's a good question. So I think that I've shared that when I was first dealing with symptoms and when I was first diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder, one of the places that I turned to was, of course, the internet, as many people do. And one of those places was YouTube. And I was looking for people who were sharing their experiences of navigating this and of, you know, living with the symptoms that I was experiencing and wasn't really sure of, you know, what was happening. And so I wanted to hear from other people who were experiencing similar things. But I wasn't really able to find very much of that kind of content. And so Rob actually had a background in video work and photography and YouTube as well. And he suggested that I share my experience and talk about it myself on YouTube. And that was really scary at first and seemed like a really silly idea. You know, who would want to listen to me talk about my experience navigating schizoaffective disorder? But, you know, it became a really amazing resource. And yeah, I kind of set about creating the resource that I had been looking for myself initially. Okay, so thank you so much for following along. It was really great getting to answer all of your questions. Thank you so much to everyone who submitted a question. I'm sorry that I couldn't get to all of the ones that were submitted. There was some really great ones that I wasn't able to get to just because of time constraints for this video, but maybe we will do another one in the future. So thank you so much for all of your questions, and thanks for watching, and wishing you and your loved ones good health as always. Take care. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.